Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my May TBR. So we are almost halfway through the year of 2023, which is bizarre in and of itself, but we are also now getting into the summertime. It is getting into the late spring, summertime. I'm so excited. I am ready for some warm weather. I am a warm weather girl. By all means, it is just my favorite time of the year. So this month we've got a little bit of things going on. So we have the Wheel of D20 obviously going on this month, and then we also have Desert-a-thon. And this month I am once again trying to read authors that are going to be Asian American and Pacific Islander authors because of the fact that May is considered AAPI month, and so all of the books I'll be talking about, with the exception of my book club books for this month for my N.K. Jemisin read along and everything else that I've got that I'm a part of. Everything I'm going to be able to handpick myself is going to be authors that are AAPI authors, whether that is authors of manga or authors of things that are outside of manga and graphic novels. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the Wheel of D20 for this month, for the month of May. Okay, so we have the first round for the Wheel of D20, which is to read a book with a hated trope once again. So for this one, I decided to go with a couple different hated tropes. The first of which involves The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Now, my hated trope that I have with this is kind of that, I don't know, like, relationship through convenience kind of thing. I feel like this is a story where I'm just not going to really like it, and I've heard that there are some people who say this is kind of a bully romance of some kind, that at least the guy is not very nice to the girl in this story, but we'll see. This also though has some autism rep, which I would be interested to see because I don't read a lot of books that currently have autism rep, and this is obviously by an AAPI author, which I'm very excited about. The other book that I'm kind of more interested in reading right now is The School for Good and Evil by Suman Chiari, something like that. I don't know quite how to pronounce their name. I apologize. But I'm interested in this because I heard that the movie was pretty good, or the TV show, whichever one it basically was. But I am not a fan of a trope being used where essentially anything that is blackened or like looks dark is considered evil. It is not something I am a huge fan of. I feel like that is the most offensive thing in a lot of ways, but I have heard that this series is pretty good, so I guess I figured why not give it a shot. But time to let the D20 decide for us. So let's see what we end up getting. And we got a 16, which means that the School for Good and Evil is going to be for the hated trope. Okay, the next prompt is a book with white on the cover. So for this, I've decided to go a couple different routes with this. I have the first 3 volumes right here of Haikyuu, which is one of my more favorite manga series, at least from the first installment that I had read last year, this time last year actually. And I wanted to see if I ended up getting this to be one where I would end up reading as much of the manga as I can, because my library had a crap ton of copies. Either way, this is kind of something I would like to make as a project for this month, but I want to see if I can get it also on the Wheel of D20 for any reason. But this is basically going to be my big project in May, is to read as much of Haikyuu as I possibly can in the month. But then the other side of this, for a book with white on the cover, is I Believe in a Thing Called Love, which is by Maureen Gu. This is a young adult contemporary story. I've heard that a lot of people that are especially fans of Morgan Matson might like Maureen Gu. She is an Asian American author, and so I thought this would be really good because I have this book and another book of hers, I believe it's called The Way You Make Me Feel. So I want to at least give her a try. So let's see what our D20 decides, if I get to go with a series I'm already going to be working on or something different. And we got a 9. So that does mean that my camera will focus. Come on. Focus there. There you are. So this means I will be reading all of Haikyuu for the Wheel of D20. Now, really, in all honesty, any of these books, like I could honestly reread the first volume and that would count. But for the Wheel of D20 video, I'll just be going through this, and then I'm gonna have a separate video that's gonna go over as much of reading Haikyuu as I possibly can in the month of May, which definitely check that out in June, because that's probably gonna be when that video is gonna come out. Okay, and the final prompt for the Wheel of D20 for the month of May is blue on the cover. So for this, I went with a couple different options again. So for this time, I decided to go with the first 3 volumes bind up of Full Metal Alchemist. This is another manga series I've been meaning to get into. I have heard very good things about, but considering that basically I would want to just read this entire thing, I kind of want to see if I can wait to read this until like I go to do another big project like I'm gonna do for Haikyuu. So hopefully I don't get this one, but we'll see. But the one I'm kind of excited to read is Angel Fall by Susan E. This is a very old story that I have not really ever had a chance to read. I have this book physically, and then I have the other 2 books on my Kindle, and I've been meaning to read it for a very, very long time. This is very much in that 2010s dystopian era of YA, and I've heard some pretty good things about it, so kind of been wanting to read this for a while. So let's see if I end up getting this one. Alright, D20, do your thing. Let's see what we get. And we got a 15, which is awesome. That means I can read Angel Fall. Okay, so just a quick recap on what I will be reading over the course of the month for the Wheel of D20. The first prompt for the hated trope is to read School for Good and Evil by Suman Shinani. I still don't know how to pronounce their name, but this book here. I don't know whether I'm gonna like it. We'll see. I've heard some good things about it, but I guess time will tell. Then for the prompt of a white cover, I will be putting on my Haikyuu reading for this prompt. I'm basically going to reserve it just for the first one, for the Wheel of D20 in particular, which I do believe Haikyuu was actually already part of the Wheel of D20 from one of the very first rounds I did it, so kind of coming full circle with this one. But I will be reading Haikyuu over the course of the month, as much of it as I can, so do be sure, like I said, to check out that video that'll be coming out in June. And then for blue cover, I ended up going with Angel Fall by Susan E. I am hesitant to see whether or not I would read the entire series in this month, but at the very least I'd like to try to see how much I like the first one and whether or not I would want to continue with the other 2 books. Okay, so I also am participating in Desert-a-thon, but the thing is with this, my TBR is a little bit undecided because I don't really know what else I'm going to be 100% reading and whether or not they're going to fulfill certain prompts. So I'm going to kind of reserve my TBR of this for when I'm actually in the course of reading everything for the month, because I really have very, very little in terms of actual like decided books in terms of the month, because I just don't know whether or not certain books are going to fulfill certain prompts and like whether or not they're going to be effective in fulfilling those. But for Desert-a-thon, I will leave this round's announcement video in the description for you guys to go check out. It's really fun. This is actually a very different way that we're doing it this time than I've seen it happen otherwise. But I will say that for the very first prompt, which is for the dig site prompt, which is to read a TBR vet, Angel Fall does fall into that, which is really good. So at the very least know that the first thing I need to read is going to be Angel Fall to complete the first prompt for Desert-a-thon, because it's very much you read one prompt, like start off, and then you all follow kind of the same path more or less, and that is the way that you have to read your books. So it's very helpful that this one does take that first place. And then Haikyuu is going to fit in there somewhere. It's just more of like a lower tier prompt, like it's a little bit later in the entire reading sphere of the month, so this is just going to be something I work on a little bit later, starting in May. But because it's all manga, like I'm gonna read through these like crazy, and I have a ton of copies that I've borrowed from my library that are like in the entire set, because I think the entire manga series is like 50 volumes, something like that, so I'm gonna be busy for a little bit. But then let's move on to the book club books for this month. So for the N.K. Jemisin read along in May, we're going to be reading the second book in the Inheritance trilogy, which is called The Broken Kingdoms. Now I'm a little concerned about how this is going to go, because the way that the first book ended definitely left me feeling like this didn't have much to go on with, so I'm really curious to see what happens with this one. But the live show for the 100,000 Kingdoms, which is book 1, is actually going to be coming up next weekend as this video is going out. So it is going to be on May 6th. So if you're interested in joining us, please feel free to do so to join us in on the 100,000 Kingdoms talk. And then the second book with the Broken Kingdoms is going to be our breed for May. Now, Brandy's book club pick has not been officially picked as of filming this video, but if it does show up by the time I go to post this video, or at the very least edit it, I'll leave it here. But I, in particular, hope that it is Chlorine by June Song, because it's the only one I could actually get in terms of availability. So I'm hoping that that's the case. Next, for the Octavia E. Butler read-along that is being hosted by Bree from Bree Cherie Reads and Maya from Maya Supernova, I think, that we are reading a collection of short stories by Octavia E. Butler called Bloodchild and Other Stories. So we finished up with the Patternist series by her in April, and so now we're moving into something a little bit different, which I'm really excited for because I've heard that some of Octavia's short stories are really, really good. And finally, for the Zora Neale Hurston read-along that both Bree and Brandy are hosting together, we are going to be reading this month Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I have heard amazing things about this story. I read little bits and snippets of it in my college years, and I really did like what I had read, so I'm very excited to be able to finally read the entirety of this and get into it. But without further ado, those are all the books I'll be reading this month. I only have 4 of them here on hand because the rest are either on my Kindle or I have to get them from the library or something to that effect. But very excited for how this month's going to go. This is going to be a really fun month, I think, especially with reading Haikyuu most of the month. So I'm pretty excited for what's to come. But let me know what you guys are planning on reading in May if you'd like to share with me down in the comments below. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all you guys in my next video. Bye guys!